another episode of The Yolk. I'm Marisol Credle, founder of Top Secret Songwriter. I empower and educate singer-songwriters, music creators to think outside of the box and to make your journey a lot easier. I provide the resources, the tools, everything you need to get started. So I just want to fill you in because today is going to be a very special day. I have a special guest, a music producer by the name of Andrew Williams, who will be joining us today. So you are going to get the who, the what, the why, and the how right here on The Yolk. So let's get straight into it because every artist wants to know, if you're just starting out, maybe you're a songwriter or a music producer who's trying to figure out how to start. This is going to be the episode for you, where you get to hear it first from a real music producer who produces his own music, who's had placements, who's done a lot of great things, and you're going to hear it from him. Let's just bring him on. Andrew Williams. What's up, Andrew?
Oh, Marisol.
So I'm just telling the people all about you, but I think, they want to hear it from you. So let's just start off by, you're telling your story of how you got started, like why you wanted to do music in the first place. Just give us a little brief summary of where you started and to where you are right now.
Well, I got into I was always into music from day one. I grew up playing like the drums and the keyboard in church, and that's pretty much. I grew up in a strict Jamaican household, so for them, it was I couldn't listen to worldly music. So the only way I was able to listen to music outside of that, outside of gospel, was I used to have to sneak into my father's like little office and grab his CDs, and he used to get I don't know if you guys remember like the commercials where they used to sell like the boxes of CDs like every month, and they would come to your house. So when he would be at work, I would just go into the boxes and just listen to any and everything. So it could have been classical music, could have been jazz, it could have been country, alternative. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was music. So that was how it kind of like got started in terms of like really loving music as a whole. But I still didn't understand genres yet. So to me, music was just music. So, but being in the Jamaican household, I'm listening. You listen to gospel, reggae all the time. So that's kind of where my roots came from.
And how old were you when you first started?
I want to say when I first started officially producing or dabbling in production, I probably like 14 years old.
14.
It was about 14, and I got into it because my best friend gave me Jay-Z's Blueprint album for my birthday, my 14th birthday, and the first time I ever had a hip hop album in my possession or anything, I popped it in my CD player. I listened to it like maybe 30 times, and wanted to know was who was making this music, like who was producing this music. Back then the CDs had the credits, the production credits, and everything. Who wrote the song, who was on the artist, and I would just I would always see Kanye West and like Just Blaze, I think at the time. Those were like main producers on that album. So, but the Kanye West dude, I just every song that I liked, he produced. So that's kind of what got me excited into music production. So that's kind of what got my like brain going. But I would say like it wasn't until in my senior year in high school when I was like 17, 17.
That's usually around the age when people like really get into it and they're like, let me see what it takes. What do I have to do? Or are you just dabbling and trying to figure out if this is something that you really want, like long term? When did you realize that you can make a career from creating music?
I would have to say probably when I was man, that's a good in terms of money, because I never really looked at it like that. I never really looked at it as I was gonna make money doing music. I just really loved doing it, and I figured if I was good enough, You know what I mean? Like the money would come. And the funny thing for me was it was like an old DJ that I first met when I started getting into music production. He told me this from jump, and he said, "Listen, if you ever get into music production, if you're in it for the money, you're gonna be highly disappointed. Pick another profession." So I didn't really understand what that meant when I was younger,
Right.
but I get it now. It's like if you're gunning just for money in
Right.
the music industry, like you already shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. That is a big uh, a realization, right? To comprehend that, like, you have to be okay with that. Not receiving
Yeah,
a lump sum of money right away, but it's something
right,
to build up to.
right.
So take us through your professional journey of producing. So anybody who doesn't know what a music producer does, or just fill them in with what your tasks are and how you are able to, like, start from beginning of a project to the end of a project.
Well, like most music producers, they either start out as just like a musician or be or maybe even a songwriter. And that's kind of how it starts. A music producer, his job is basically to oversee the entire creation of the music. Uh, so there's all the elements, the right songwriting, the beat making, the mixing stage, the mastering stage. All of that is basically is combined as a music producer's job.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, I like when I first started out, I wouldn't call myself a music producer. I would say I started out as a beat maker. You know what I mean? I really like beats, and I just want to be the best beat maker at the time. And I kind of just fell into all elements of being a music producer because I also love songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I also love mixing. I also love mastering. I loved all the elements. So I just tried to really like perfect the craft in all.
Yeah, and the arranging parts, because if you
Yes.
don't know this, I met Andrew probably like 10 years ago, almost, right? 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And yeah,
Maybe more than that.
more than that. And we had our, like, little journey of music creating together, co-writing songs together. So I know a little bit, with your successes and things that, you were aspiring to and to achieve, and you achieved those things. Like, what is that process like if there was someone out there who were just starting out, and or they're starting over, or they have some good songs, and they're just like, I want to get these songs placed. Like, what are some strategies or some ways that you utilized it to help, work in your favor?
Um, I would say number one, being in the music industry, period, you have to be a socialite. Like you have to get out there and you have to you can't be shy, like whatsoever. So for me, being I would say an extroverted introvert, it was I got lucky with a friend of mine that was already in the music. He was an intern at Virgin, I think Virgin Records at the time, which is Capital, I guess, Capital. And he was just in the office, and he came by our studio. He had an artist, and we would just he would just come by the studio. We would just produce for his artist, and he really liked us, and he took us under his wing, and he just kind of showed us the rope. He would bring us to the office, and we would play beats and stuff like that, and we were always prepared. Like we always had music ready, always had beats ready. We weren't that good at the time, but he believed in us, and sometimes that's what it takes. The most important thing I would say that I learned, you got to build a team from jump. You can't do it by yourself. Um, it's too many elements and that you can miss. Too many opportunities you can miss. Without a team, you can't take on every project yourself. You have to have a team, a solid team that you believe in.
Yeah, that is an important piece, to develop your team. And a lot of people find that very difficult. I even find that difficult as a, one woman show, of creating these things and realizing that, I have to outsource some things because the load gets a little heavy. So that's really good advice to remind folks that, even in music production, just having a music production team, it's much better to have that in co-writing and everything. So you got all of that together. So that's the advice that you would give someone, and the things, the lessons, some of the lessons that you've learned through your process. So when you're thinking about the song, so artists come to you, I'm sure, all the time and want to come in and, record, or they ask for your services, to create music to their songs, or, collaborate with them. What are some of the things that you look for before working with an artist?
Um, Sometimes it's like a feeling, it's like uh I'm always looking for just someone always looking to kind of push the culture forward. Um, something to the, open minded, um, preferably that can write. I like right, but I also believe that an artist that has the capability to write and even produce a little bit. You know what I mean? Like kind of just almost as a producer in themselves, and
Yeah.
they just kind of need like that second brain to kind of help them put the ideas together. Um, and it's just that I always say, I call it the it thing. Like sometimes you just feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't even know what I'm looking for with an artist when I want to work with a new artist and produce them or develop them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come in and they just hit you, and it's something that you're looking for at the time you didn't even know you needed.
Right.
So um,
So when you make a song in the studio,
mhm.
or before you get in there and you're, what sparks your inspiration? Because I know that's difficult. It's you're a composer. Even if you
Mhm.
create lyrics, you're creating the melody, you're creating the music, the sound portion of the song. But I know you actually write lyrics as well. Um,
Right.
so what's that spark? Where does it come from? That spark of inspiration?
Um, Believe it or not, it can come from literally anything.
Anything?
Um, yeah, like you can literally I like for example, I go to the gym every morning, and sometimes just that can spark something. It could be I could be just in the gym lifting, and I hear a song over the intercom that I've never heard before, and it just sparked an idea for me to just go in the studio and do something like it, or even sample it, or you know what I mean, like pretty everything. I really draw inspiration from just listening, just always have my ears open to pretty much everything.
Yeah. So that's the beautiful thing about production, and like creating songs. It's like you could get inspiration from everywhere. So what tells you like this song is done? Like it's solid. This is it. Like what is that? That's what tells you that? Like what do you have to look for within the song to know like this is it?
For me, I always say like you have to
It's the
feel
feeling.
yeah, like the feeling, like you have to feel something because there's no now if you notice like with the state of music right now, there's really no right or wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
The traditional way to structure a song is kind of been blown up. There's cross genre breeds, like you see country artists doing trap, like you know what I mean. It's kind of like a mixture of a lot of things, but one thing that remains the same is music always makes you feel something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's sad, happy, uh, pissed off, um, shy. Like it gives you an emotion, and I feel like you kind of can feel that, and you
Yeah.
kind of can feel when a record is done because you whatever emotion that it gives you or whatever emotion that you were going for, you feel it very strongly, and that's kind of when you know, like, all right, I think I'm done. I think we
Yeah.
kind of like nailed it.
Yeah.
They hit it right on.
It's like that it factor feeling like, oh my God, this is a hit. I can hear this
Yeah.
on the radio. I know people will be impacted by the song. It's that gut feeling. I was going to ask you a question about when you're working in the studio with artists. Because a lot of people who are new and they never had a session before, and they're thinking like, whoa, how do I even know how to choose a producer? Like, and
Mhm.
what do they expect from me when I come to the studio? Like, what are some of those things that you expect from a songwriter, lyricist, performing artist when they come into the studio? Like, what do you expect from them? You
Off
repeat that again?
personality,
Person.
like off, because for me, it's almost like when you meet somebody new, like a friend,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You should have a relationship with that person. You should feel comfortable
Okay.
jotting out your ideas or anything, like without feeling judged. And I feel like sometimes like songwriters or artists that are very technical and very stiff,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys may know, like personally, like, but I feel like the more you guys get where like you don't really like the artist or the songwriter, but you guys
Mm-hmm.
make great music together, but you may not particularly work with. No, but I personally, what I'm looking for is like just somebody with personality,
Yeah.
somebody that's open minded. That that can even open my mind to something that I didn't even was I wasn't even hip to, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that draws inspiration too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Yeah, most definitely. I hear this a lot. Like I had a live the other day, and we're discussing like sometimes a lot of producers now, everyone's searching for or finding their signature sound or their niche, and that's even for lyricist songwriters. Like, how do you want to be known? Like, what is your music? What does it say? How does it speak to people? And I remember just hearing her frustration and trying to find a producer because they had a set sound and they weren't flexible. But what I hear from you is like, you're open and you're flexible and you're willing to work with people, and you love the personality because that you draw from that, like draw inspiration from that.
mm-hmm.
So I would say for our next question, I just want to make sure that you're still there because it gets a little foggy.
Yeah, it's probably the end.
Oh, okay. Um, so what are some projects that you wanted to work on? Like, who are some, I should say, reframe this question. What artists have you ever wanted to work with but didn't have the chance to?
Oh yeah, I mean off the rip, I would have to say, but
Who?
he's the reason why Kanye, Kanye West.
Oh, Kanye West. Yes.
Yeah, because he's the reason why I got into music in the first place. You know, going back to the story with the Jay-Z's Blueprint album, he was the first producer that I, researched, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like I just really wanted to know how he was building these drums and chopping these samples up, and I felt like it was that called it just spoke to me. So I got the chance to meet him on multiple occasions. I just never got the chance to actually work with him. But I feel like before he's on his way out, I gotta even one song and I'm good. I just need to do one record, one session with him, and I'll be set. I can retire.
Nice. I like that. And what are some projects that you worked on that you felt were like your favorite project to work on?
Um, I would have to say, uh, one of my first projects ever was with Donnie Kling from Making the Band, and that was like when I would say that was probably my first time ever working with a like a major sign. The reason why I really enjoyed working on that project was because the friendship I even built with him. It's still to this day we're like really tight, but he kind of was a producer in himself and he didn't really know,
Yeah.
and it was fun like growing as a songwriter with him and him growing as a producer with me. So it was a lot of fun, kind of like just kind of blending both worlds together pretty much, and it helped me out even going forward, working with other artists and learning how to actually like move in a room, with an artist and how to get a song done. And so I would have to say that was probably like one of my favorite projects because it was my first project.
Nice. Yeah, making the band was pretty awesome. And yeah, that's cool to be able to have that experience, you know, being like new and upcoming and then having that experience and then going from there. And you've been able to like place records
Mm-hmm.
with different artists and you've been with BMG. You had management. So talk about those things like with, you know, people who are looking for managers, like what's, you know, just an example or some kind of experience that you have that you would share with folks who are looking for management and kind of give them the do's and
Mm-hmm. I would say when you're looking for a manager, first of all, have something to manage.
have something to manage.
You know what I mean? Like, don't just look at manager. Yeah, like have something to manage. Like, be prepared. Like, if you're a songwriter, have songs, have things. So like, when you do interview a manager, or sometimes a manager is not even someone in the industry. Sometimes it's just somebody that really believes in your music as much as you do.
Yeah.
And but they're not creative process, and they can kind of help with the business side of things and kind of help you just organize and stay focused.
Yeah.
So I always say, number one, you look for a manager, always go with somebody that you can 100% trust, because from what I've learned in my past is, even the most solid people in the industry, well, you can get snaked. You can get snaked, especially if they know that they can see that you're not really that experienced. They can take advantage. So I just feel like anybody that you consider your manager, you're looking to be your manager, you just have to be able to trust them 100%.
Yeah, that that's huge right there. Being able to trust someone because you know, a lot of people do get taken advantage of. In this day and age, there's so many scams, so many people that are
Mm-hmm.
out there trying to make a quick buck, and they will use these different artists and, you know, not protecting their work and being so exposed. So that's a big piece. So as you're going through all of this, you just talked about like you had management, you know, your first major project, you know, out the gates was working with making the band, and you had these placements, work with, you know, major publishing company. So how are you defining your sound? Like what was that process like for you to kind of create that?
Um, I feel like over the years, you just kind of slowly create a sound. You always start out whatever you're. So for me, like I was really passionate about, just hip hop and R&B. Like that was something I just wanted to get into, something I wasn't allowed to listen to in my household. So I just, I dived into that as soon as I could. And because I kind of feel like it was a gift and a curse, because I didn't grow up like, with it in my house, and I had to kind of like go and search for it. I kind of had a different ear when it came to producing. And then, but of course, having that island background, I
Mhm.
always somehow, some way had like an island influence, like a Caribbean influence in my music. And it didn't matter what genre, but um, yeah, for me, it was, and then just being open minded to a lot of music, a lot of different kinds of music. It just shaped my sound in a sense where um, you can't really, I don't know, you can't really put a finger on it exactly what it is. You can definitely you can definitely know my sound when you hear it, because it's very heavily, like the drums are always very I would say in your face. Like it's always in your uh but I'm across the board. I've done everything from dance, EDM to country to alternative to hip hop to reggae to Afrobeat to Latin. And one thing I always preach on is quality, and in anything you do. And so a lot of my, early stages of producing, I would take I wasn't the beat maker that would make like 100 beats in like 3 days. I was more so like that producer that would take like a week to make one really dope beat,
Right.
and every aspect of the sense. Obviously nowadays that's not really like the smartest thing to do, but because music changes so quickly. Um, but I would just say like you can always, and no matter what I do, you can always hear a Caribbean influence somehow, some way. Like it's always a little taste of Caribbean, whether it's in the drums or in the melody or the chord progression. You can always hear a little taste of island in my music.
Yeah, I like that. But you said something about you made like one beat per week, and that's not really smart to do now. So if there was someone who was like serious about becoming a music producer, what would you recommend? How many tracks should they be pushing out, and what's the turnaround rate, for a professional music producer?
I would say there's no like just say one thing I did learn though in early stage was you don't want to make a complete beat before you have a song, you know or you worked on a song with artists. Sometimes you just kind of want to make an idea that's good enough to inspire a songwriter or an artist to build a song on top of the record. So that goes back to being the difference between being a beat maker and a music producer. When you're a beat maker, you kind of like are making the beat to just like impress. You know what I mean? You just want it to sound hot as hell. You want the transitions, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But that can kind of sometimes box in a songwriter or artist to whatever it is that you built, as opposed to building a really solid skeleton track as a music producer to inspire ideas for a song to come out, and then you finish the beat once you have the song, because at the end of the day all about the song, so the beat should be catered to what the song is and not the other way around.
Yeah, I like that because you like made a distinction between a beat maker and a producer. A producer sees the
Yeah,
through from beginning to end and helps with arrangement, all that kind of stuff. And beat makers just make the beat. They're just focused on the beat.
yeah.
So yeah, you're really giving some good tips here. So I wanted to ask you again. So you have your sound. You worked with different artists. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out and they want to become a music producer? Like, what's this? Just a solid advice. Like, if they were right here talking to you and asking you this question, like, what can I do? How do I even start? Like, what should I start on right now? Like, what would you tell them?
I mean, to be honest, I would say learn the business side of the music industry, because um, it can save you a lot of time and money in the future, um, going forward. Also, I would just say, if you're just starting out, like, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to try things, new things, and kind of see where you fit in. You know what I mean? See what inspires you, and don't be afraid to go outside the box. If you might not even have any music theory. There's a lot of music producers that didn't grow up playing an instrument or anything like that, and they're still some of the greatest producers of our time, our generation. And it's just because they use their knowledge in a way to get the job done, and however that was, if it was going and finding musicians to play certain things, or if it was chopping up a sample good enough where it sounded like they played it. But I would definitely say also, like, it doesn't hurt to also learn some music theory. That'll help you a lot, and it should probably shave off a lot of time in terms of like building a song, because there is, like it says, some music theory in why songs work. You know, there is a formula as to why certain songs hit and certain songs are on the radio, and sometimes you can be ahead of the curve if you even have a little bit of music theory and understand, you know, the notes and the keys and all that stuff. Even going into mixing and engineering and stuff like that, that'll definitely help you um, with recording, because you never know what artist you might have as an engineer. You know, you might if you have a rapper, rappers use auto tune, and you know, knowing the key of the song and stuff like that's very important. You know, that can get your session started off on a way better foot than just kind of guessing and looking for the key and just telling the artist to rap until we find the key. Sometimes just kind of understanding those little things can make a session totally go a different way. You know,
Oh, that was good.
so yeah.
What softwares do you recommend for beginners?
I said before, if you're starting out, try anything. They all pretty much do the same thing, but the DAW kind of depends on your style, like how you create music. Some people are really good in Pro Tools, but hate Logic. Some people are really good in Logic, but I think it's just a journey. I pretty much use every DAW that's out there, and they all serve this purpose for the level that I was at. You know, I started out with, I think it was Acid Pro. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody remembers Acid Pro, but and then I worked up to Reason, and after that I went into Logic, Pro Tools. I did that for about 7 years, and I could have sworn I was going to stop there. And one night, somebody showed me how to use Ableton, and I never looked back. And I'm now strictly Ableton and Pro Tools. So it all depends on like just where you're at and what you're doing. You know, there's no right or wrong way. They all get to the same point. You know, but I think it depends on your style, and you'll kind of choose. It'll kind of choose you as well, because you kind of use things and certain things that you want to do. Certain programs will be better than others in that area, and you'll kind of just stick to that.
Nice. I like that. So I think we're coming up to a wrap here, but I wanted to ask you one final question. What can people expect from you in the next
Um.
months, next year?
Okay. So this is something kind of been kind of a new revelation for me. I think as a music producer too, when you're developing artists and working with songwriters and other producers and stuff like that, you're always teaching too. You know, you're always kind of passing on your knowledge to whoever's in the room, whoever you're working with. And I always just found anytime someone came to a session of mine, they always left learning something new or something they could take away and add to what they were already, you know, doing or already good at. And for me, I wanted now I'm kind of really starting into the teaching side of things. And but on top of that, still producing. Like I've been heavily in the Afrobeat and Latin world. You can definitely I work with a group called Breakfast in Vegas, and they're based out of California right now. And we kind of have like an Afro Latin mix that we're doing right now. So like that's kind of like the main thing I'm doing. I'm also working with this artist right now from the Bahamas, Julian Believe. He kind of does like Junkanoo music. If you're familiar with Bohemian music, this out of Connecticut. I've been working with him. So there's a lot of new. I'm still dabbling and working with new artists and still kind of trying to find a home, I guess I would say, like for some of the artists that I'm working with. But I'm pretty much open. But then the teaching thing is kind of like coming full force right now. Like
Nice.
I really love to see someone come around me and learn something and feel like, you know, like wow, like this wasn't a waste of my time. Like I really learned something today. Like, and I'm gonna go home and try it. So
I love that. So how can people find you?
Right now you can find me on IG, Instagram at Broadway 009, Twitter, same handle. It's across the board. Any social media. My website is in the works. But that will be in the link in my bio on IG. You'll be able to click on there, and you on there you'll be able to book sessions. You'll be able to buy tracks. You'll be able to um, um, sign up for my program that I'm gonna actually put up there, which is a series of videos
Nice.
teaching teaching how to structure songs and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm kind of putting together right now.
Love it. Love it, guys. So I'm going to make sure to put all your information in the bio section so that people can get in contact with you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for joining Top Secret Songwriter today. This was great. Thank you so much for all the feedback that you're giving to folks who are really looking to come into, becoming music producers, songwriters. So this is always helpful to hear from someone who's already done it and is going through it and can share their expertise. So thank you for taking the time out.
Well, you for the platform, for this is important, to actually have a platform to talk to people so people could get the information. It's very nerve wracking sometimes. You know, oh, it's like it's untouchable. Like everyone, you can have. So it's really good to have something like this where you can kind of reference and go and like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I thought.
Right.
So
Definitely. So
it's great.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Right. You guys will be able to see the replay of this. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and follow on Instagram, Top Secret Songwriter. And make sure to follow Andrew, our special guest, at Broadway 009. And I will leave all his information in the description. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.